So I got a GMRS license. I'll tell you why and why I couldn't wait and how to get one. Coming up today on Rhea Shack. So hey, Rhea here and welcome to the Shack. Here we talk about ham radio primarily, but there are a few other personal radio services too. And I've talked about them briefly, but primarily in how they differ from amateur radio. But today I'm going to tell you why I personally got a license for GMRS and even got some GMRS radios. These radios were kindly sent to me by my friends at Retevis, and I'll be doing a full review on all of these radios very soon. So if you don't want to miss out, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell, and you'll be notified of every new video. So we're going to talk a bit about GMRS, the General Mobile Radio Service, and FRS, the Family Radio Service. What is GMRS? Well, remember in my CB radio video, I talked about how the FCC wanted to put CB radio up in the UHF bands, but due to cost reasons, they had to come down to 27 megahertz. But actually, the FCC did enact a UHF CB service. The FCC set aside frequencies from 450 to 470 megahertz and enacted the Class A Citizens Band radio service. In between then and now, FRS and GMRS shared some channels and frequencies, with FRS being lower power and GMRS being higher power. GMRS required a license and FRS did not. But it was becoming hard to enforce that, so in 2017, the FCC amended the rules. FRS radios were bumped up to 2 watts of power, but the FCC also eliminated radios that could be used on both FRS and GMRS. So there are no more combination FRS and GMRS radios, apart from those that were grandfathered before this new regulation. And I know a lot of people ask me, why can't we just have one radio to rule them all? But the FCC doesn't like that. They don't think that way. So why did I get a GMRS license? Well, the first reason has to do with an important restriction in amateur radio. As you may know, I'm a Part 107 drone pilot. I actually do a fair amount of commercial drone projects, and it's a nice side gig to have. I enjoy flying drones a lot and taking breathtaking video from up above, and photos too. But sometimes I don't work alone. I may have a visual observer or some other person on my flight crew. And yes, these are legal definitions by the FAA. So amateur radio really doesn't allow commercial activity on amateur radio frequencies, with very rare exceptions. Those are for teachers, a limited exception for hospital drills, and finally the control operator for the ARRL headquarters bulletin station at W1AW in Newington, Connecticut. GMRS, on the other hand, can be used for commercial purposes, but there is a nuance you need to know about. One of those nuances is that a company itself cannot have a GMRS license, at least not anymore. A few are grandfathered in. But an individual can have a license, and it's perfectly legal to conduct commercial activity on GMRS. And you can actually use one license for an entire household. Pretty neat, especially since it costs $70 today, but will be dropping to $35 in the future. But that's not the only reason. One of my brothers moved somewhat nearby. He's now up in Connecticut and specifically asked about radios. He's not interested in ham radio, but he wants to keep in touch with his immediate family while he's there. And that's valid. So I got to thinking, my kids will get licensed eventually, but for now, I probably want to give them a radio when we are out and about so we can communicate. And if we're doing commercial activity, because, spoiler alert, sometimes they are my drone flight crew, we can use GMRS legally. But perhaps another more important reason. It is a tool to have in your comms toolbox. There may come a time when you need to have people who want to help with communications, but don't necessarily want to take an amateur radio exam. That's where GMRS fits in perfectly. I was told by a few people that GMRS radios are already being used in some public events like the New York City Marathon and others. Of course, the marathon does make extensive use of ham radio as well, but GMRS has its place. Or if you're into prepping and you need radios that aren't on the ham bands, because hams are very particular about intruders, and rightfully so. So you get on GMRS and you hopefully those you talk to have a license as well. So just how do you get a license? You do need to first sign up for an FCC registration number or FRN. This basically is a digital ID that the FCC uses to conduct business with you. The old method, especially for amateur radio licenses, was to supply your social security number, and the FCC would keep track of you that way. No more. They're requiring FRNs now, and I think this is better for many reasons, especially privacy. If you have an amateur radio license, you already have an FRN, and you can go on the FCC website, log into the Universal Licensing System, or ULS, with your same FCC registration number or FRN, then apply for the license there. You're looking for the service code ZA, which is for GMRS. Fill out the info, then continue to certify, pay your fee, and you're done. Your license will be issued in a day or so. By the way, you do need an email address because the FCC has gone completely paperless. It saves them a ton of money in printing and postage, so they've eliminated pretty much all paper forms and license documents. The call sign format is basically 4 letters and a number. I got the call sign WRNY816. It's different from my amateur call sign. And yes, you do have to use this on air. Once your license appears in the FCC database, you can transmit right away. You do have to identify your station, and you need to say your call sign at the end of your transmissions and every 15 minutes in between. It's the same concept as amateur radio, but a bit more lax. You do have repeaters in GMRS, and some of them are run by off-road clubs because it's popular with off-road vehicle enthusiasts. Some of these repeaters are open, some are closed, so best to ask for permission. There's a website I'll link below with details on repeaters. So anyway, that's why I got a license and why I got into GMRS. I'll have reviews of these radios up soon, so look out for them. Thanks for watching. If you did like the content, please hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Until next time, this is N2RJ and WRNY816. See you around.